gravel crunched under the tires as we turned onto the long driveway, framed by ancient oak trees. Our new countryside home, a beautifully restored farmhouse nestled deep in rural Vermont, stood bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun. After years of cramped city living and the relentless demands of our jobs, I'm Ben, a software developer, always connected, always online, and my wife Sarah, a freelance illustrator seeking inspiration in quiet landscapes. This was our dream, a sanctuary, a place for peace and quiet. We'd poured our savings, our hopes, and our very souls into it. We didn't realize the quiet came with its own haunting melody. The first hint of trouble wasn't a creaking floorboard or a rattling window. It was the hum. It started on our third night, just after we'd finally finished unpacking the last box and collapsed into bed, exhausted but content. I stirred from a shallow sleep, nudging Sarah. "Do you hear that?" I whispered. She blinked, sleepy. "Hear what, honey?" A low, resonant hum, barely audible, yet undeniably present. It vibrated through the floorboards, through the very mattress, a soft, sustained note that seemed to emanate from beneath us. "The basement," I murmured, sitting up. Our new home didn't have a traditional basement, but a large, unfinished cellar, accessible by a heavy, latched door in the kitchen. We'd only briefly glanced into its depths during the viewing, a dark, damp space filled with cobwebs and the scent of earth. We'd planned to convert it someday. The humming continued, rhythmic and unchanging. It was strangely melodic, a single, pure tone, almost like a tuning fork, vibrating in the deepest part of the house. We convinced ourselves it was the old pipes, or perhaps some antiquated furnace kicking on. "Just the joys of country living," Sarah mumbled, pulling the duvet higher. We tried to ignore it, to dismiss it as the quirks of an old house settling in. But the hum was persistent, a subtle current in the night. It became a nightly occurrence, always starting precisely at 3:13 a.m. I'd wake up without fail, my body tensing, waiting for the low vibration to begin. Sarah, less of a light sleeper, usually slept through it, but it began to chip away at my peace. The air in our bedroom started to feel heavy, tinged with a faint, almost imperceptible scent, something dry and earthy like overturned soil, mixed with a hint of something sweet like faint, distant perfume. It was subtle, yet cloying, hinting at a hidden dampness. Then came the night the hum changed. It was 3:13 a.m. on the dot. I woke with a jolt, expecting the familiar low thrum. Instead, it was different, higher pitched, and within the hum, I heard it. Notes, a melody. Faint, ethereal, yet unmistakably there. It was a lullaby, a soft, gentle tune, the kind a mother sings to a sleeping child. My blood ran cold. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drum in the suffocating silence of the house. Sarah stirred beside me, her eyes fluttering open. She heard it too. Her hand instinctively reached for mine, her fingers interlacing with mine in a death grip. The lullaby, sung by the unseen hum, swelled, clearer now, drifting up from the basement. And then, through the melody, a faint, wispy sound emerged. It was a voice, a child's voice, soft, sweet, impossibly young, and it was singing the lyrics. The words were indistinct at first, muffled by the hum and the layers of floorboards between us and the basement. But then, as the melody intensified, a single line, chillingly clear, rose from below. "Sleep now, little darling, deep beneath the earth." My blood ran cold, a wave of pure, unadulterated dread washing over me. I knew, with a horrifying certainty that chilled me to my very bones, that if we didn't find out what was in that basement now, if we allowed that voice to continue, our nightmare would truly begin. My body was rigid, every muscle tense, my gaze fixed on the floorboards, imagining the space beneath us. The lullaby, sung by that impossibly young voice, continued its haunting melody, weaving through the humid, scented air. Sarah clutched my hand, her fingers digging into my flesh, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The faint scent of damp earth and sickly sweet perfume intensified, filling our bedroom, a cloying sweetness that made my stomach churn. This wasn't just a noisy pipe. This was a deliberate, undeniable presence, a message sung from the depths of our home. We lay there, paralyzed by fear and a terrifying sense of responsibility. Every instinct screamed at us to yank the covers over our heads, to flee the house, to call for help. But a chilling fascination, born of desperate terror for our newfound peace and a lifetime of trying to solve the unsolvable, held me captive. My fear wasn't just for our physical safety, but for the erosion of our logical, ordered world, for the delicate balance of our dream home. My past, a messy tapestry of urban stress and an occasional yearning for the mystical, felt like it was unraveling. I had always dismissed anything supernatural, a pragmatist to my core, but ever since moving into this farmhouse, a deep unease had settled in. I remembered the odd things the real estate agent had glossed over, the unusually heavy basement door with multiple rusted latches, the way the old well in the backyard was bricked over almost carelessly, as if someone wanted to forget it quickly. I'd blamed it on poor upkeep. Now, the memories felt ominously prophetic, hinting at a history we hadn't been told. My fear wasn't just for our current predicament, but for the insidious realization that the foundation of our life and our house was cracking. Subtle oddities began to punctuate our days. Our usually robust Wi-Fi signal, which should have been strong in a rural area, became erratic, often dropping entirely at odd hours. Our smart home devices would sometimes activate on their own, lights flickering on and off, the thermostat fluctuating wildly, often settling on an unnervingly cold temperature regardless of our settings. Sarah started complaining of unexplained cold spots in the house, particularly near the kitchen basement door, fleeting chills that had no logical source. Even our usually fearless cat, Pumpkin, began to avoid the kitchen altogether, his fur bristling and his tail tucked whenever he even approached the doorway, his hackles raised at unseen things. The most unnerving foreshadowing came from outside the house. Our nearest neighbor, an elderly, stoic farmer named Silas Thorne, who'd lived in the area his entire life, had been strangely cold during our initial introductions. He'd barely made eye contact, and when he finally spoke, his words were clipped. "That house," he'd said, gesturing vaguely, "it's got a history, some things, best left buried." His eyes, usually sharp and weathered, had held a flicker of something close to pity. His words, initially dismissed as rural eccentricity, now echoed with chilling clarity. The tension in the house became palpable. Every evening as dusk settled, a quiet dread would begin to coil in my stomach. The soft creaks of the old house, once charming, now sounded like deliberate footsteps. The gentle hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen, usually a background noise, now felt like a low, resonant thrum, a vibration that permeated the very foundations of the house. And always that faint, musty scent, like damp earth and sickly sweet perfume, would drift through the air, most prominent near the basement door. Sarah, usually so grounded, grew withdrawn, her eyes constantly darting towards the kitchen, towards the heavy door leading to the cellar. She started leaving a small lamp on in the kitchen at night, a desperate, silent defiance against the growing darkness. We found ourselves whispering in our own home, afraid to break the suffocating silence, afraid of what might listen, what might respond. Our casual conversations became terse, strained, punctuated by unspoken fears. We were aware of the problem, but utterly powerless. The lullaby from the basement wasn't just a song. It was a chilling secret echoing from a forgotten past and preparing to make its next terrifying move. The hum from the basement was no longer just a hum. It was a living, breathing entity, a low thrumming that resonated through the floorboards, vibrating through our very bones. The spectral lullaby, sung by that impossibly young voice, had become a constant presence in the house, a mournful melody that pulled at something deep within us. Sarah, her face pale but resolute, finally broke the silence that night. "We have to go down there, Ben. We have to." My heart hammered, a frantic drum against my ribs. I armed myself with the brightest flashlight I owned, its beam a stark, defiant cut through the oppressive darkness that now seemed to cling to every corner of the house. The heavy basement door in the kitchen felt impossibly cold beneath my trembling fingers. The scent of damp earth and sickeningly sweet perfume was overwhelming here, cloying and thick. As I unlatched the rusty bolts, each click echoed unnervingly loud in the profound silence. The door creaked open, revealing a stairwell that plunged into an inky blackness. No light from below, only the intensifying hum and the faint, chilling strains of the lullaby. With Sarah clutching my arm, we descended, step by agonizing step, into the darkness. The air grew colder, damper, smelling of cold stone and something else, something indescribably ancient, like stagnant water that had seen too many seasons. The hum swelled, wrapping around us, vibrating in our chests, in our teeth. The lullaby, no longer faint, was loud now, clear, sung by a chorus of tiny spectral voices that seemed to echo from every damp stone wall. "Sleep now, little darling, deep beneath the earth. Your cradle is cold, your slumber profound. Rest forever, sweet child, without a sound." My mind reeled. This wasn't a hallucination. This wasn't the house settling. This was a direct, horrifying truth. The voices were everywhere, swirling around us, the sound of hundreds of tiny, unseen mouths whispering the morbid lyrics. The room itself seemed to waver, the familiar stone walls of the cellar stretching and contracting, the dirt floor appearing to breathe. My perception of reality stretched thin, threatening to snap. Was this a curse, madness, or something far more ancient, something that played with the very fabric of our reality, drawn to the tragedy it held? The flashlight beam cut through the gloom, revealing the cellar in stark, horrifying detail. It was a vast earthen-floored space, supported by massive, rough-hewn beams. And in the very center, almost hidden by encroaching roots and clumps of damp soil, was a small, crudely dug pit. It was shallow, barely big enough for a child, and from within that pit, the humming, the lullaby, and the chorus of tiny voices were at their most intense, vibrating with a palpable energy. Then, from the depths of the pit, a new sound emerged, a faint scratching, like tiny fingernails against dry earth. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It was rhythmic, desperate, and utterly chilling. Sarah gasped, her grip on my arm tightening to a painful claw. "Mark," she choked out, her voice a raw whisper. There's something in there." As the scratching intensified, the air in the cellar pulsed with a sickening rhythm. The coldness became unbearable, a biting internal chill that froze my very marrow. Simultaneously, a faint, searing heat radiated from the pit, like the ghost of a fever, burning my skin from the inside out. I was caught between fire and ice, a horrifying echo of Clara's voicemail. But this time it was a living, breathing torment. Through the agony of the cold and heat, through the cacophony of the spectral lullaby, a single image began to coalesce within the pit. Not a body, not a ghost, but a small, shimmering presence, like heat haze over cold earth. It was vaguely humanoid, child-sized, its form wavering, indistinct, and from within its ephemeral shape, faint, glowing points of light appeared. Not eyes, not exactly, but clusters of pinpricks like dying embers that pulsed with a malevolent, ancient awareness. And then from that shimmering form, a single high-pitched wail erupted, a sound of pure, unadulterated suffering, more piercing than any other. A horrifying realization dawned on me, colder than the Arctic blast in the cellar. The lullaby wasn't for a child. It was the child, trapped, suffering, buried alive. And it wasn't just humming, it was singing its own torment, its own impossible lullaby over and over, demanding to be heard, demanding release. And as that piercing wail tore through the air, emanating directly from the shimmering presence in the pit, the earth around the pit began to shift, not slowly but quickly, violently. The dirt began to mound, to rise, forming a crude, child-sized grave, sealing the pit from which the spectral form had emerged. My nightmare was far from over. It had just begun its true claim. The earth around the pit continued to rise, rapidly, violently, sealing the small, crude grave. The piercing wail from the shimmering presence ceased as abruptly as it began, swallowed by the shifting soil. The oppressive cold and searing heat in the cellar vanished, leaving behind only the damp chill of the stone walls. My physical body slumped against the rough wall, my vision blurring, my mind screaming. Sarah, beside me, was silent, trembling violently. The cellar, which had just been a chamber of impossible horrors, was now a mere, ordinary basement. But I knew. We both knew. There was no peaceful resolution, only a terrifying, unsettling quiet that hummed with a hidden malevolence. My body ached, a deep, bone-weary exhaustion settling into my limbs. As I struggled to regain my footing, Sarah pulled away from me, her eyes wide, fixed on the fresh mound of earth. It's gone, she whispered, her voice raw with disbelief and terror. It's gone back. But the coldness lingered, a subtle internal chill that radiated from my very core. My pragmatism, my belief in logical explanations had not just been challenged, it had been utterly annihilated. My grief for the life we'd hoped to build here had been replaced by a profound horror, a chilling understanding of the house's true inhabitant. The immediate nightmare of the basement encounter had ended, but its true resolution was a twisted, unending torment. We tried to convince ourselves it was stress, a shared hallucination brought on by the strange, isolated house. We even briefly considered leaving, but where would we go? And how could we leave a child buried alive, humming eternally beneath our dream home? The house had chosen us, and we were irrevocably bound. The ultimate twist revealed itself subtly, insidiously, like a creeping shadow. The nightly hum continued, always at 3:13 a.m., but it was no longer coming from the basement. It was coming from within the walls. A low, pervasive vibration that resonated through every room, every surface, a constant, silent drone beneath the everyday sounds of our lives. And within the hum, faint, almost imperceptible whispers began. Not the lullaby, not the child's voice, but other voices, many voices, overlapping, indistinct, yet undeniably present. Our physical sensations, too, were irrevocably altered. We would feel sudden, inexplicable blasts of Arctic cold, followed by searing internal heat, oscillating rapidly, burning and freezing our skin from the inside out. Our reflections in the polished surfaces of the antique furniture started to change. Our eyes, always tired, now had an unnerving depth, a dual quality. One pupil seemed perpetually dilated like a black void, while the other held a faint, shimmering red glow like a dying ember. We looked at each other and saw not just our partners, but the subtle, terrifying shifts of something else looking back. I was no longer just Ben, the software developer. I was a listener, a reluctant guardian, irrevocably linked to the spectral child beneath our home. Sarah, too, became haunted, her artistic vision twisting into disturbing sketches of children's faces buried under tangled roots. The paranoia that had always simmered beneath the surface of my life flared into a full-blown inferno. Every flicker of light, every drop in temperature, every whisper of static from our electronics was a reminder of the entity that resided beneath us, that had claimed our house and was slowly, inexorably claiming us. Our world, once a stable blueprint, was now a fractured, terrifying landscape of dread. We had survived the night in the cellar, but the house, it seemed, had never truly ended for us. It had simply found new, living tenants for its eternal lullaby. The hum is constant now, a low, pervasive vibration beneath every sound, every thought, an internal resonance of unending torment. It's the hum of a lost child, perpetually singing, perpetually trapped, demanding to be heard, demanding companionship in its cold, earthen cradle. My experience with the house that hums at night taught me a chilling truth. Some foundations are built on secrets, and some lullabies echo forever. Our lives are a haunting reflection of that night in the cellar. We try to live, to maintain a semblance of normalcy, but our minds are constantly pulled to the hum, to the whispers. The hope for a peaceful sanctuary remains, but it's now intertwined with a profound terror, a chilling understanding of the house's true nature. We didn't save the child, we merely became its new audience, its unwitting participants. Our survival feels less like a victory and more like a permanent state of being tethered, silent participants in an ancient tragedy. We sometimes find ourselves drawn to the kitchen, standing by the heavy basement door, listening. The hum is clearest there. And sometimes when the house is still and the hum is at its most intense, we hear it. A faint, almost imperceptible whisper, almost like a child's voice pleading, "Don't leave us." It's the child still there, still humming, still buried. And sometimes beneath its plea, we hear other voices, many voices, low, guttural murmurs that speak of an ancient, consuming hunger. It's the voices of those who have listened before, those who have stayed. They found a way in. They found companionship, our companionship. And as we stand there, listening to the endless hum, to the child's repeating plea, to the hungry whispers beneath, we sometimes find ourselves humming back, our own voices raspy, with an unnatural dryness, tinged with the scent of earth and old perfume. "Sleep now, little darling," we murmur. We're here. We're listening. Always. Because the lullaby never ended for us. It's simply waiting for the next harmony. Waiting for you.